Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. With NRG struggling heavily towards the end of their esports World Cup performance and now starting out Stage 2 in a pretty similar light, FNS has given his perspective on what major things need to change if NRG want any chance of actually turning it around and making it to the World Championship. FNS, of course, as we know, was dropped by NRG earlier in the season. They made a couple of changes and initially they might have seemed to work, but as time has gone on, clearly they're in need of a shake-up in his opinion. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. Just starting here, we saw yesterday Abyss is back officially in the rotation with Icebox gone. It's caused a lot of drama. We talked about it yesterday, but as G2 say, we are so back. As we know, they had a few strategies over there on Abyss that caused a little bit of drama, as we know at the time. So we'll see if similar ideas are exposed as time goes forward with Abyss back in the pool. But of course, as we know, for now anyway, Leaf is not going to be on the team. It's Baby Bay for the time being, and the result there was pretty compelling what Sentinels had to say about that the other day. Rocket Bullets did this tweet a couple of days ago. Players who I am worried might retire soon. We've got Zellsis, we'll get to him in a second. We've got Ethan, we've got Boostio on his list, and then we've got Boaster, right? Now, I'm intrigued as always to know what these players think about this. Of course, Boaster is, he's not the youngest player in the league, but it doesn't feel to me that he is, necessarily on the verge of retirement. Boostio is an interesting one because, look, for all the players, like in Boostio's position, you've won the World Championship, your individual level wasn't quite as strong, now you've been dropped from the team. There's always a consideration as to what is next there, let's say. Ethan, I think, is a possibility. Like, it is a possibility after this season with NRG. What Ethan decides to do. I still think he's got more gas left in the tank, but I think this season is pretty important, really, because for now, with FNS gone, he's effectively in-game leading the team. And if he's, if he can't do a good job of that now, it's probably never really going to happen. But it's, obviously maybe he can turn it around, and we're going to talk about NRG in a second. If he can't, then of course, if he can't be an in-game leader or that's not going to work again, then again, it maybe limits the options when NRG consider their rebuild next year. And then, Zellsis obviously makes it clear in the replies he's not going anywhere anytime soon, letting everyone know I won't retire until I can't hold a mouse anymore. So Zellsis intends to go until the bitter ends, and I respect that. I think that's good to hear. And there was always this talk, wasn't there, like mid-season for Sentinels, especially after what happened at the end of last year, like, oh well, Redux is going to turn 18 at some point, and maybe Zellsis is going to be out of there. And look, do I see Zellsis staying on Sentinels as a player forever? Not necessarily. I think it's absolutely possible. I'd love to see it be the case. Like, he fits that brand so well that I don't want to see Zellsis go anywhere. But he's even kind of implying here that, yeah, maybe if Sentinels, if they have a terrible end to the season, they're forced to make a change, he's definitely going to intend to keep playing in whatever form that may potentially be. Just to quickly mention, the matches are getting underway again in the next couple of days. In the Pacific, for example, it's the 25th of July. We get Gen.G Global Esports, Talon versus DFM in a couple of days' time. These are how the groups are currently looking over there, and of course around the rest of the world as well. But one of the big results of the past weekends was Baby Bay and G2 playing up against Sentinels. Yes, Sen eventually, they got the victory, but it was far from clear-cut. I know that Sentinels will definitely feel like they need to lock in going forwards if they're going to want to make sure that they can keep their season on the right track. G2 we know have already qualified for the World Championship, and maybe Sentinels will not get bailed out, but like Sentinels got to play G2 at the perfect possible time, right? It's never easy to play G2, certainly not if you're Sentinels with some of the recent results, but if you are going to play G2, playing them in their first match back with Baby Bay is the time to play them, because maybe G2 get better over time with Baby Bay in the lineup. I think that's absolutely possible, and they're still G2 at the end of the day, but Sentinels managed to get a win against them when they weren't really playing their best stuff. So Sem definitely took advantage of the opportunity that they were given. That put them with another point on the board, so their World Championship qualification is now looking increasingly likely, but it is far from guaranteed still. There are other teams that could do some damage, and NRG will attempt at least to be among them. But there were some interesting clips emerging over the last couple of days. FNS was definitely, making his thoughts known on Leviathan a little while ago, and also making his thoughts known on the state of the Americas. Now, this group Omega, both of these groups are pretty tough. The Americas is a pretty stacked region. But Group A, Cloud9, they got their win. Furia are terrible. They still look terrible. Evil Geniuses are still, I don't think, that good. G2 are playing with Baby Bay, and then you've got 2G. So really, Group A is like, okay, it's not that strong. Group Omega, on the other hand, is very competitive because we not only have crew, and it's not just crew, but this is champs crew, right? This is champs is in 2 months crew, and that means that crew go god mode. We know that happens every year. So crew are a threat. Loud play, you know, they're not been great this year, but there's still a bit of a threat in there. Lev, they've tried to make some changes to improve. I'm not so convinced, but we'll see. MIBR were third earlier this season in the Americas. And yeah, maybe they've regressed substantially, but they're still competitive. And then NRG and 100T. So this group is just very difficult to call, right? In Group A, it's maybe all clear cut, 2 are the best, 2 are the weakest. In Group Omega, it's absolutely all to play for, right? And this is what FNS is really getting at, is to say, look, NRG and 100T, but especially NRG, his team, his former team that he was on earlier this season, once he left, they looked like they were doing better. They qualified for the World Cup, they went out there to Riyadh, and, you know, they weren't horrific, but they didn't end in the way that they wanted to. And then they've turned up here and got absolutely battered by a 100T team with no practice at all with Kess. And that is not the sign that they will want to see.
Can you explain what Sen and NRG need to go to champs? Well, Sen... Okay, I'll start with NRG. NRG needs something different, right? Like, okay, if there was any time to take a risk, it's right now, right? Because it's do or die at this point. Do or die, you have a hard group. So in my opinion, you risk your roles, you make a role swap, and you put Sam on double duelist with Mata. You put Ethan on smokes, I said? Yeah, smokes. Ethan on perma smokes, and you put Brock on scan initiator, and you put Scuba on Senti. That's it. Simple as that, you try it. And then for Sentinels, it just looks like it's a chem thing, bro. They just need to figure it out individually. They're just like out of form. I don't know what makes them be out of form. They're just out of form. So it's just about playing and practicing well and doing all the right things, having a good schedule, good routine, and hopefully that will help them. I mean, Sen is... What does Sen need to do to make champs, chat? Like, what do they need? Like, at minimum, win 2 more? They're chilling, bro. They are chilling. They're actually just, like, who do they play? Furia, okay, that's 1. Yeah, they are chilling. They'll eventually win another. But this current Sentinels, the way they are currently playing, like the one we saw today, would lose to either any of these teams. Ain't even gonna lie. They would lose to any of these teams, including 2G. I just don't think it's possible to lose to Furia right now. So they'd beat Furia. They regularly scrim 2G. Either way, yeah, Sen's gonna make playoffs. I'm more talking about NRG because NRG has to get to final. They have to get to the grand final to make it. These guys have to get to the grand final. They have to win out, hopefully get a good seed. They have to get it. Obviously, they have to go at least 3-2, but 4-1 would be insane. And then they have to make a playoff run. We're not beating Crew, Lev, and Loud. Guys, a team can be very different from week 1 to week 2. You understand that, right? Just because you saw a bad form from a team week 1 doesn't mean week 2 they'll be. They can change things and get better. 1 week of practice is plenty of time. Contrary to like popular belief, it is plenty of time. But the role change would be insane because I really want to see Sam like pop off personally. So we'll see. This is a wash map. They cannot lose this round right here. Clean, by the way. Literally flawless round right here. After a force buy, you lose it flawless, and then it's just so much momentum. And the ult cycle is in 100 Thieves' favor as well. You just can't. What a map by Dan. Jesus. And Xander actually. Xander had a series, by the way, and Kess. The 2 players that basically like new player and switch roles, you got to give credit where credit's due. Look at Mata. What? I mean, they all got owned, bro. It doesn't even matter. He had 9 first bloods. Was this a bad map pick by NRG in hindsight? Yeah, but you don't know what's going on in their practice, right? This could have been their best map in practice, so we don't know. Do you think NRG need to take a risk and have Sam and Mata and go double duelist? Look, I'm gonna be honest, from a completely outside point of view, I am not on the team. I don't know what the problems are on the team, if there are any, but I would say that it's worth it if they lose another game, but especially like they just need to do it, I think. Double duelist in general, specifically Adam, or just go back to Ethan's Yoru is really good, but if Sam plays a duelist with Adam, I think it can make a massive difference, bro. Like Sam's duelist is insane. I don't know if he'll ever do it. The thing is, now they have a secondary control player. When I was on the team, we did not have a secondary controller player because Ethan was our main initiator and he was the only one that could play controller. Now that I'm off the team and Scuba's on the team, Scuba can take over most of the controller roles, which allows Sam and Adam to play double duelists, right? And if Scuba decided to play Senti, Ethan can also play controller. And Ethan that way can, I mean, I guess he'd be mainly lurking, unless he's like Viper or something. And even then he'd be lurking. But the mid-rounding, I think, is enough on this team with Sam, Adam, for Ethan to have to be in the pack consistently. And then Brock just stays initiator. So it would go Scuba, Senti, Ethan controller, Brock initiator, and then double duelist. And they see how it goes. Look at Heretics, double duelist helped them a lot. Although like on Icebox, they played no duelist and that helped too. So it's not like they play double duelist on every map, but I get your point. And the reason I say like it would be cool to see Sam on duelist but like even like not being his friend or anything, but just saying it from like an objective point of view, I feel like it's the only thing NRG hasn't tested. They've tried everything else except that.
So NRG's run was looking rather good, right? I mean, in the EWC qualifiers, they lost to 100T. They then beat 2G, beat Crew, beat Cloud9, beat MIBR, beat 100T again, and made it through to the World Cup. They turned up to the World Cup, beat Heretics in a best of one, 2-0'd RRQ, but maybe Teho frauds, and then they got 2-0'd out of the tournament by Gen.G, but, this was not a particularly close 2-0. It was 13-6, 13-10 in the end. So, yeah, like NRG bombed out. And then, of course, they turned up in the Americas and they got absolutely smoked, as we know, by 100 Thieves in their first series with a new player in. So FNS gives his take on the fact that as far as he sees it, if they keep on bashing their head against the brick wall in the way that they presently are, they're not going to get the results they want. He thinks they need role changes to make this work, right? They brought in Brook, they brought in Scuba, and okay, Ethan's going to be the in-game leadership style, but he could run the controller. I think it's absolutely possible that he could. Som stepping into like a double duelist position. Just interesting, because FNS said, who went on to say after the clip ended that I shared, that they tried a lot of things in scrims when he was leading the team. They never tried Som running, the double duelist, and he thinks that could really work, and maybe it could. It's just interesting, right, that NRG are effectively this is the last resort, right, for them. As far as FNS sees it, if they keep on going as it is, they have no hope to make it to champs. And as a result, they need to make a change and they need to try something fast, and that's what he would potentially recommend. So enjoy your thoughts on that in the comments. Like Sentinels, they've got enough championship points, they should be okay. NRG most certainly do not, and they're going to need a mega run. I mean, they can't lose, really. Like, they've just got to win everything they play. And their next matches are as follows. So they play Loud, then they play Lev, then MIBR, and then Crew. So not easy games. They need to try and win at least, obviously, 3 of those, then try and win the playoffs, and then see what happens from there. So very much interested your thoughts on that in the comments below. Just a couple of final things. Some scrimbucks going down. Cloud9, we don't know who they were playing, but it was 12-7. And then Crew were up 16-2. Now, we don't know who it was against, but does that look like EG Yay? It kind of does, right? Like, I would imagine that's probably EGA. So if it is, then it is. If it's not, then maybe it could be somebody else. But tough to imagine who else this could be. I mean, there's not really anyone else it could be, I don't think. So it's likely that EG were getting absolutely clapped 16-2 by Crew, and that is maybe not much of a surprise. It's end-of-year Crew. You guys know how it goes. Sentinels are up 5-2 on 2G. They had a bit of a scrimbucks going down there. Crew were up 4 on Qubit as well, so yeah, Crew are just going God mode, right? Like they are a scary team for sure right now. And okay, it's only scrims at the end of the day, but it's still something worth keeping in mind. So very much enjoyed your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.